want to tell you who I am. I'm John Gagnon. I'm the head of sales and business development at Bidalgo. We're one of the largest Facebook marketing partners in the world, especially when it comes to gaming, and very, very specifically when it comes to social casino. We work with almost everyone. I've been at the company about 3 years, but my background in the industry, like I've done mainly game development for about 15 years as an artist. So this session is really close to my heart. It's something that I thought that the industry needed to see. So like when we think about what what we're going to look at in this session today, ad creative in general is kind of it's an overlooked part of the business. There's a lot of panels in this conference about like UA tactics and how you get results, but creative is ultimately like the biggest lever to drive your performance forward. So I'm really, really excited today to bring you this fireside chat with Joraynee Sarno from Product Madness.
Hey, thank you.
Jay and I have known each other for quite a while. He's an old and well-liked customer of Bidalgo. So kind of without further ado, like let's get into talking about you, man.
All right. I mean, first off, I just want to thank Casual Connect, John, and Casey for just giving us the platform to talk about the creative on the marketing performance side. So it's good insights. Let's have some fun, right? All right. So, yeah, that's me. I think I was fashion forward when I was young. I mean, you see the He-Man shirt, the acid wash jeans, and the Crocs. I don't know where I got that from, but yeah, it's all there. That's pretty much my grandmother's house in the Philippines. I migrated here when I was 7, and after that, it was just pretty much history. Yeah, I started off as in marketing. I was a marketing analyst, worked with clients and creatives alike, and I actually fell in love with creative end. So I started tinkering in Photoshop, fell in love with the tools and the processes, and went back to school for visual communications. So after that, I've just been in advertising for 14 years. The past 8 years in performance marketing, which is, I mean, it just grabbed me, and I stuck with it. I joined Product Madness in 2011, before the acquisition from Aristocrat in 2012, and just really experienced firsthand, the impact of UA and creatives all around.
It's great, yeah. So let's talk about like you've been in the industry for quite a while. Like you've been through and seen an incredible journey at Product Madness. When you guys were just a small team, you had joined the company. You're just pivoting to social casino, and you're still there to this day. Where now Aristocrat has kind of put together a world-class company in mobile gaming in general. It's really exciting. So. Yeah, maybe you could walk us through a little bit of that journey.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Here it is. So that's circa 2010 PMSF, so it's pretty incredible, right? I mean, this was the first for everything: creative, CRM managers, community, data scientists. We had 2 data scientists, which is pretty impressive, and a VIP manager. I mean, this was a 300 square foot office. I mean, there was a lot of documentation on butcher paper. We couldn't really afford like a whiteboard, so that was kind of like the alternative there. But as you can see, I mean, that's pretty much the genesis of it. In London, we had about 3 people, and now we're roughly about 250 worldwide. So we have an office in London, Minsk, Vegas, Austin, and San Francisco.
Right, big company now, world class, and like I always love this stage of a startup. I love coming in and seeing everybody all at one table.
Yeah,
it's really cool. It's a nice
it's all used furniture, all used furniture as well.
Very
it's all
historical
Craigslist.
Photo. Great. So now let's tell us about like the journey past that point. Like how did the company grow into what it is today, and like you've seen it happen firsthand.
Yeah, sure. Let's start off with like between 2007 and 2010. I mean, this is where the company really started and flourished, right? We started off with RPG games and like shopping games. As you can see, it's a little dark, but it's crime lords. We had warlords, and then like the best friend shopping. So if you look at the Product Madness logo, there's barcodes. Hence, that's pretty much the beginning of it, right? And so between 2010 and 2011, we made a shift to social casino. That pivot actually created the first set of social casino games. You have Old McDonald's slots, Big City Bingo, and Blackjack Madness. So with Jose and Lior, the founders, they saw that we could monetize that way better and optimize the product. So that's when the shift really happened. And then 2011 to 2012, That's the birth of the slot machines, which is the core business. It was Hollywood Spins, team slots, 3D slots, and celebrity slots. What I can say from here is we did a lot of in-game development, and we had some vendors as well. So obviously there was a revenue share, and then the platform was Facebook, so obviously they took 30%. So we pretty much came out with nothing. Yeah, and then between 2011 and 2013 was the Aristocrat acquisition. I think between our back end and our processes and Aristocrat's content, it was a great marriage, right? Because at this point, right now, currently, we have Heart of Vegas, which is #1 in Australia in mobile. Cashman Casino is #3, and 555 Gold, which is our APAC game, just recently released, and that's climbing the charts. And yeah, there's definitely more to come.
Great. Yeah, I mean it's incredible to like look back historically at where you guys came from, and now you're the absolute, like, you're one of the absolute leaders. You're one of the more world-class companies out there. So it's pretty exciting.
Thank you.
So now that we kind of like, you know, recapped your journey of the company, I want to look more at you and your role, how it evolved. It's not that kind of, like, we don't talk enough about it in this industry, but you have a really unique role where you're marrying art and science. So tell us kind of like how your role maybe changed real quickly, but more importantly, like this, you've got this nice diagram of your current structure, which is really, really, I think, insightful for this audience.
Sure. Just a little context. So the first 2 years was really just live ops. We really built a back-end system to just cater to the customers, whether it was sales, just new promotions and such. And after that, there was really a push for user acquisition, and that was pretty much the infancy of things. And yeah, and it pretty much led to this. So I pretty much had the team in the San Francisco office. So we have 3 live games. So the acronyms are HOV, CMC, and 555 Gold, and each one has a lead artist, and right under it would have a designer. So with re-engagement, that's a beast in itself, but that's definitely going to just expand within the next couple months because just the demand is there. And obviously we do VIP as well, all the artwork. So, and we do have remote studios around the world only because they need to help us scale the product. So in-house, what we do is the complex artwork and creatives. That's HTML5, CSS, everything else, and motion graphics. So with the remote studio, the role is to really just resize those and templatize them so we can expand them to different platforms.
Right. I think that's super insightful for this audience. Like to see that, like, you have kind of like the highly talented people in-house that are generating the concepts, and then once you have them working and winning, you're getting auxiliary help to help you use them everywhere at all, in like all channels. Right.
All the A/B testing is in-house, and once we get that final product, that final render, we'll push it out to the remote studios.
Very interesting. Great. So let's see. All right. So, you know, we've looked at the team now. I think it's super interesting to think about, like, the kind of like cadence that people are refreshing at. We see everybody. You know, we see all the clients. We come around, say hi to everybody at their office, and you know, some people are not very good at refreshing. You know, they're producing 1 video a month or something, and they expect to have better performance. I'm really fascinated by this diagram that you got here. This is like describing the capacity and the capability of this team. So why don't you walk us through it?
Sure. This is just a creative glimpse of our deliverables on a monthly basis, right? I mean, I think this is about 9 months old, and this is just kind of, yeah, it's crazy after this. It was too much to put in this slide, but let's go from left to right. So we have weekly, bi-monthly, and monthly creatives, right? I mean, that's broken down by 3 games, and obviously we have re-engagement on the bottom. This is aligned with sales, holidays, new title releases, and everything else. And if you look, I mean, if you see on the left side, it says the 24 deliverables. I mean, that's really ad hoc and contingent on what the UA team needs. Yeah, and from there, we obviously have the contingencies, the traditional advertising, and the creators for ad networks because we work with a few of them. So just to keep the volume and velocity, it's challenging, it's fun, but at the same time, we have the data to support the creatives as well.
It's fantastic. I mean, like I mentioned, like we see all the teams very few teams can even touch you guys on this. You have an incredibly capable team, and especially when we're going to go get some examples of the creative later. You'll see just the quality that's happening there. So.
Yeah, so HOV, I'm sorry. So HOV is Heart of Vegas, CMC is Cashman Casino, and Fa is Triple F.
Right, the different games.
Sorry about that.
Cool. All right, so like now we've like talked about how your team is structured, what's the deliverables. So I think we're going to go through expectations now. Or,
yeah. Let's go through expectations. So this is what I pretty much expect from the team. Anyone who comes on board, they literally get their feet wet right away. The first one is just harmony between quality and velocity, right? What I mean by that is that with user acquisition, the amount of creative types and everything else, they need to keep up with the demands, right? And this is cyclical. This is on a daily basis, not weekly, but daily. Creative agility, that's just providing different creative types. At this juncture, it's HTML5, which is the hottest thing right now. And beneath that is just videos, which is ubiquitous. Keen data-driven creative decisions. So you got to say that 5 times fast, but it's really just working with the UA team and just getting the insights needed to create those the right creatives to perform. And yeah, that ties in with the deep relationship with the UA team, because without that, and we're definitely codependent. And we need that. We need that relationship, whether it's weekly meetings or just sidebars for different games. That needs to happen. That's mandatory. And then the panoptic assessment of advertising landscape. I mean, it's a long phrase, but it's just really keeping your eyes open for any sort of advertising. It doesn't necessarily need to be industry-based. It could be anything that brings you inspiration. This is really for the art team itself. Well, the UA team, too, if they have any ideas they want to present or try out. And I think the beautiful thing is that we can try things, look at data in like 1 to 2 days, and then iterate on that. So it's a very fast-paced environment.
That's great. I mean, some of my observations that I think are really outstanding from your team, definitely like, that relationship you mentioned. You guys sit in the same office. I think that's an important fact.
Yep.
Not all UA teams and creative teams are like co-located in the same spot. Right. And I've seen the difference that makes. And like, your team is very close. You're very comfortable working with each other. And that is like an exponential factor of better working relationship. I also think it's amazing too. Like you guys are at such a high level that you can devote and instruct your team to look at the entire advertising landscape and be inspired. They kind of have the freedom to be inspired because they're achieving at such a high level. I think that's really awesome.
Thank you.
Cool.
And yeah, I mean, pretty much that pretty much goes into the last one, right? That segues into success through failed experimentation. I mean, 80% of our ads don't work, but the 20% that do work perform really well, right? So it's a matter of just going through and failing, trying different creatives, and just really going beyond the status quo of your skill set and what's in the industry and everything else that's around it. Yeah.
Fantastic. So now that we've kind of talked about how the team looks, the what's expected of them. It's a lot of work, actually. I mean, like you guys are producing so much. It's such high quality. I kind of want to walk through some of your methodologies. So, you produced this excellent slide here. As I mentioned, like we're longtime partners. Your client of Bidalgo. Walk me through how how you use the Bidalgo creative dashboard, because for context for the audience, Bidalgo's creative dashboard is it's this communication hub between the art teams and the UA managers. The UA managers are responsible for performance. The art teams produce the creative. There is no standardized way of working in the industry, and we made this creative dashboard to solve that problem. So I'm fascinated by your use cases here and your methodology on top of it.
Yeah, so historically before the dashboard, our UA team would create Excel sheets and would try to tie that in with the creatives via Dropbox links, it worked, but it was challenging to actually consume the data. I think with the Bidalgo dashboard, what we loved about it is just it's a central hub for the UA team and us. There's really, it's laid out clear and simple. The organization is there. I think what's important for us is really like filtering to a granular level. For example, for KPIs. Like for instance, if I need HOV for Android in the last 7 days, we can pull that up in a matter of seconds. And we'll have the top performing creatives laid out here, as you can see on your left, yeah, within seconds. So I think that's really important for us, rather than going through Excel sheets and just trying to figure out, okay, this is the date, and kind of doing filters, which can take 15 to 30 minutes.
Right.
So it's very extremely efficient.
Yeah, like you said, like consuming the data. This is kind of like it's meant to just surface the insights for you, and it's also the UA team is not responsible for providing this data to your art team. You guys can kind of self-serve it.
Exactly.
Right. Which is it's another huge efficiency gain.
Yeah. Because I mean, we as the creative team, we do have sidebars and have our own meetings around this dashboard, and just kind of go through, okay, what's performing, what's not performing, okay. And what's awesome about it too is that you can actually see the creative and you can play it. So that was another challenge for us, is just, okay, let me click this link, and if it's not working, what's going on? But it's all presented here and just contained. Right.
Okay, that's fantastic. I always like to log in and look at your dashboard and see what you're working on. It's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. Great. Well, appreciate you walking us through some of your use case and methodology there. So
sure. Thanks.
All right. So now that we kind of looked at like how you use the dashboard, I think it's a little bit like backstory for the audience here. There's kind of like two cadences at which you produce creative that we've kind of seen across all of our clients. And there's two use cases. There's the creative hacking cycle, when you're producing new concepts and you need to get new volume up there. Those concepts always end up fatiguing, and then there's a kind of a wholesale change of mind frame to this creative evolution concept, which is about iterating on your best performers. So I think we have some examples, right?
Yeah, we do.
So Jay has graciously provided us some examples. So we're going to start off with looking at the creative hacking example.
Sure. So this is a creative hacking example for HOV Android. So the elements we wanted to use was the HOV logo, lightning effects, the hold and spin feature, which is really native to Lightning Link in its popularity, the Vegas sign, fireworks, everything else you see here, I mean, the voiceovers and the quadrant panning. We try to put these elements inside these two ads, and this is actually an A/B test. So you see the similarities and you see the nuances as well.
It's fantastic. You can see from watching it over and over like how well structured the variables are in this A/B test. Right. Great. So I think we're gonna involve the audience right now at this point.
Let's do a
so we got a little bit of a quiz for everybody in the audience here. So we're gonna see like which one performed better. If you think it's the one on the left, raise your hand. Okay. All right, there's a few people. All right, if you think the one on the right performed better, raise your hand. Interesting.
It's pretty split, no.
Yeah, a little bit more towards the right, but yeah, okay. Very interesting. All right, so show us the results here. All right, there you go.
All right, so the right. Yeah.
Wow.
So this has this resulted in a CTR 86% and conversion rate of 77 versus 64 and 34, right? I mean, you could see the difference there.
Right. Of course, very powerful brand.
True. Or the actual Vegas insignia was more powerful than the HOV logo.
It's a fascinating discussion. I think this is why I love talking about this stuff.
Yeah, that's why there's a ton of A/B tests that goes on into the office, because, I mean, there's really no set formula for these ads, right? It fluctuates. There's always a flux of, okay, this works, this doesn't work, and what's trending.
Great. So that was the hacking quiz.
Yeah.
So what we got, the next up is, some examples of how you took this winner and evolved it. So can you describe what's going on here?
Yeah, absolutely. So the winner obviously was the one on the right. So this is the creative evolution example. So we essentially break it down into 3 categories after that. You have game premise, game challenge, and game reward. So game premise is the actual game itself. Here with Lightning Link, you definitely want to get the high ranking symbol, which is the gold briefcase with the gold bars in it. I mean, you see it looks really exciting, right? And then you have the game challenge, which is the stack symbols, and you want to get that major jackpot and just line it up, but it's continuous, so it's going to keep you engaged. And the last one is game rewards. And if you played Lightning Link, yeah, those numbers vary. So here, the actual reward is 50K in coins.
Right. So yeah, like these are just we know like that people who play Lightning Link can recognize all these symbols, and like this is incredibly powerful, creative to them. It kind of like gets them back in the mind frame of like I'm at the machine. Yeah. Which is what it's intended to do. Right. Great. So quiz number 2.
Quiz number 2.
All right. So we're gonna ask the audience again. So which of these 3 was the best performer? If we think it's game premise, the one on the far left there, raise your hand if you think that was the best.
Anyone game premise?
Nobody thinks premise was the best. Okay. All right. Well, remember that. Game challenge there in the middle. Who thinks that was the top performer? Quite a few people. Excellent. And then lastly, the game rewards, one on the far right. Quite a few. It's pretty split between those two.
This is going to be fun.
Fascinating. All right, well, let's show us who won. Oh.
Yeah. So, yeah, this one, I mean, it had a little bit lower CTR and CVR compared to its original. But, I mean, it's still there. It's still high-ranking numbers. Any thoughts on why this performed?
Well,
and you guys didn't vote on this one?
I think like this is a great lesson for the audience, right? Because like you can sit all day and concept and brainstorm, but until you test, until you run some media, gather some data, you will never know, and you'll be so surprised what works best and what you thought was going to be your best. Will often produce nothing. So it just goes back to the value of your team, like the ability to test and iterate and generate these type of results is second to none.
Yeah. All right.
Cool. So lastly here, so like when we outlined the next step past the creative evolution stage, the kind of like long-term goal of your team is to get at the scale and stability phase where you're producing and you're at high scale and everything is very stable. So I think you have some examples here of how you're taking this winner from evolution and creating variations to support that scale.
Exactly. So to really fight the fatigue, you just have to scale the winning ad. Here from game premise, the winner, what we'll do is create variations. I mean, this is not limited to the landscape. We could do portrait as well and squares if needed. Again, it's very ad hoc depending on what the UA team needs. So if you see here, like these ads are very, very similar, but have slight nuances. And this is how we fight fatigue, is just kind of expand the reach by using the same ad and just tweaking it just a little bit.
Yeah, I find this is one of the more fascinating slides in the whole deck because you can see how clearly like the variables are kind of isolated.
Exactly. And then, we move over to HTML5 ads.
Right, you got some examples of HTML5 playables there. Which is
and this is all
very
created
new
in-house.
hot thing. We'll get to questions in a bit. So let's talk real quickly about the HTML5 playables that you got here. These are great examples. It's a very hot thing.
Yeah, it's the next wave of advertising. It's highly gamified. It's optimized for engagement. You have full control of the user experience. You can maneuver them any way you want. It's a try before you install, so that's paramount. That's aside from video, this is paramount because they can actually try your game outside of, watching it. And the rule of thumb is low CTR and high conversion. This is just within the industry.
Right. And that's fascinating because like you actually kind of go down the funnel to try the game. Yeah. And so people who end up kind of converting from there are very like highly interested, highly qualified at that point. Very cool. So I hope everybody enjoyed this. Like we're gonna wrap with a few best practices, and then we're gonna be able to go to questions. So
cool. Yeah, to just keep the machine well oiled. I mean, these are just some best practices here. Find harmony between quality and velocity. You need that balance. You can't just have a really terrible looking ad and it perform. Sometimes that happens, but it's an anomaly. Agility and creative ad types. Just have your team create ads, not just videos, GIFs, just across the board. Mine data to surface internal creative trends. So just dissect your ads, the ones that work and the ones that don't work, and see what you can incorporate. Rethink winners and revitalize them, because you're always going to have a subset of ads that are going to perform regardless. It's either you can reskin that, reiterate, or just create a version of it in a different dimension. And lastly, my favorite is just the mantra that we obviously live by, is just experiment, fail, revisit, and renew. That's the only way we get better, and that's the only way we innovate internally.
Wisdom from one of the best people. Really appreciate it. So thank you, Jay.